if you have the autonomy to make those decisions very quickly, use this page as like your testing ground to be extremely clear about what you do and what you're offering, especially if it's a first touch point landing page. You want someone to come here and understand immediately what it is you do. So if you want to call out what your product is, do some little research to see, because sometimes what we call it internally does not match what people are actually searching for and coming to. Move that form down, be clear about the problems that you're solving, showcase the product. You have blocks on there that don't have that background imagery. I would make this whole page just like your brand colors, but not that background imagery, because I think that you'll actually distract and lose some people on there. And then definitely brevity and specificity are going to be your friends on any landing page, where you can take some of those bullet points down quite significantly in the solutions area. And then that's social proof, what they can expect after. You're like 50% there. That's how I look at it. So you got 50% to go with some of those tweaks, but it could be overall like simplified, and take off all these extra links. You don't need that.
Welcome to the ultimate roast of landing pages. I'm very excited. All right, so we have 3 awesome speakers. We have Gabi Salam. She is not the COO of ExitPod. That is my mistake when I copy and pasted these, but she is a conversion specialist at Fiverr. And we have Cass Bober, who, if you are anywhere near the ExitPod community, you know. And then we also have Will Hokanga, who is the founder of Six Word Studio and an awesome copywriter. So I'm just going to bring them on stage without any further ado. Welcome, landing page team.
Hi. We're here.
How are we feeling?
Amazing. Gabi, congratulations on your promotion. CEO, I guess Dan's rowdy behavior in the previous roast kind of got him kicked out real quick.
Yeah, he's fired and we automatically hired Gabi. Super excited to have all of you guys here. Here's how it's going to run today. We're going to do a brief presentation. We are going to learn from Gabi about her experience with landing pages at Fiverr. It's a great presentation full of data and little tips. Cass and Will are also going to add their own lessons there. And then we're going to get into what you're here for, the roast. I will share my screen. I will drive. Cass, 4 fire emojis is what we got here. So we're going to have fun. All right, who's ready?
Okay, thank you, Danielle, for this great intro. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to kicking this session on landing page. And basically, I prepared those slides based on my experience at Fiverr. So let's move on to the next slide, the agenda. So we'll start with a baseline and go over best practices in creating high converting landing page. I brought you examples of examples from Fiverr, and we'll wrap up this presentation with do's and don'ts on landing page optimization. Let's start. The first thing that I want to go over, okay, let's start with the definition. Basically, a landing page, it is the destination a visitor is going to reach after clicking on an ad, an email, or any other link, and it's conversion-based. You have one goal. It's either direct purchase or lead generation, but you need to be focused on this main goal. What a landing page is not, first of all, it's not a homepage. They have a lot of similarities because, of course, a homepage also is conversion-based, but a homepage is mainly the main entry point of a website. So it's going to gather a lot of intents and redirect to many other places in your website. And also, it's not a blog post because, the primary goal of a blog post is information. So we can move on to the next slide. Let's talk about intent. This is very dear to my heart. It's basically the starting point of any campaign. And I want to separate what is high intent and low intent. So high intent is basically when a user is actively searching for something. So you can think of a brand, and then it's going to be direct channel. You are searching for it, or it's going to be on Google, of course, if you're clicking on an ad or an organic result. You're typing a keyword, your intent is very hot. On the other side of the umbrella, we have what we call low intent. And this is basically when you're exposed to a content and you decide to check it out. So typically on social media, of course, when you're scrolling down and you see that you're targeted on ads, but it can also be done on through partnerships or influencers. And keep this in mind, because when we'll go over the examples, this is going to come back. So we can move on to the next slide. I have 5 important points that I would like to go over. And the first one is the header, because this is the first thing that you're supposed to see when you land on the page. So of course, you want to have something that is very, in my opinion, simple and straightforward, but also conveying a value proposition. And for me, one thing that is very important when I'm working with my copywriter, it's always, explaining that the user didn't land per magic on this page. He came from somewhere. There's an entry point and there's a copy in this entry point. So you want to ensure that there's continuity in the copy that you're creating, and you'll find some connection between the entry point copy and the main header. Then moving on to design, some basic UX design principle is that bigger, larger elements capture more attention. And that's why in general, your header on the top fold is bigger. So you want to work on your hierarchy between, headlines, subheadings, paragraphs, and having different sizing. When you have images, it's important that it will be supporting your text and not overshadowing it. And I'm stressing this especially for B2B businesses, because you can face something that is a bit complex. So you don't want to overwhelm the visitor with something that is too big and really getting over your content. And overall, you want something that is scannable, and we'll look at a landing page that show how you can have something organized with bullet points and that will be readable. Of course, CTAs, super important, having something that is clear and persuasive. Have only one primary CTA in the top fold. I know that in the past, when we used to talk about landing page, it was really, having something simple, a header, no navigation, one CTA. I think that now we learned that we can have something a bit more complex. But if you decide to have two CTAs on your top fold, make sure that the primary one is more visible. One thing that I want to add is that a CTA can be a button, but for example, in Fiverr, we also use search bar because we have so many services. So we understood that for some campaigns, it's better to go for that. And of course, for lead generation, it can be a form. Trust element, of course, super important, especially if your brand is not that known. So we work with product, we work with customer success, we look at reviews, and every time that we can add testimonials, reviews, badges on a word, we do so. And last but not least, mobile, not only for SEO purpose, I think that in my perspective, mobile is so important because it's a discovery platform. Now, so many brands get to be known through social media, email campaigns, and it's basically the platform for first impression, and first impression always influence the next step in the user funnel. So even if your product is not made to be converted on mobile, it's still important to have a good mobile web version. We're going to talk about example, and it's a high intent landing page. This is a campaign that we did for a website creation. So a little bit about some context about Fiverr. Fiverr is created on e-commerce standard. We sell thousands of services, and the way to organize it is through listing pages. So you can see it on the image on your right. This is a listing page for website development services. And we use those listings as a landing experience for paid acquisition. After doing some research, we understood that it's not the optimal landing experience because it was very overwhelming for users. So we decided to test something new, to create a landing page and to showcase the story of website creation on Fiverr, because we not only offer website development services, but also website design. And if I ask you what is the difference, you won't know how to explain it. You can see on the screenshot here what we created. So the header is turn to top freelancers to create the perfect site. So we switch it. We used to have a copy that is very service-oriented and hiring. And here we understood that the goal is more important. And here the user's goal is to create a website. So let's talk about it and make sure that they're in the right place. And of course, the value proposition from Fiverr is to hire top freelancers. So it's also there. And I'm very sorry that I can't show you what comes after because we basically created a structure that is scannable where we explain all the diversity of services with the deliveries, whether you're looking to get a website on Wix, so you should be hiring this expert, or you're looking to get a JavaScript file. This was the idea, and we got great results from it. Conversion rate improved by 15%, and the campaign ROI increased by 5.7%. So we started implementing this strategy for other campaigns. And something that I want to point out also is that this is not the final version. We constantly optimizing. So even if we won with this one, we know that we can still improve it.
How often would you say you make updates?
It really depends on the campaign. We do let it run sometimes, but every, couple of months we check in again. And, say, okay, let's try a different CTA. Let's change the hero. Let's adapt this. We don't do it on a weekly basis, but like every couple of months we check in again. Moving on to another example. And I'm sorry, I won't have a link again. It's okay, guys. I'm sorry that you can't see the landing page really. But this is a campaign that we created for Fiverr Pro. So we are targeting e-commerce professionals that are building or scaling their businesses. And the goal for them was to basically fill in a form, and right away after they were able to schedule a meeting with the sales team. A few things about it. Again, here on the top full, we made sure that e-commerce professionals could understand that this is really for them. So your e-commerce project plan, executed, delivered. And we have a clear CTA that is to book a call. And for this landing page, we can't see the form that we use. But it went through some iteration. And what we learned from here, we had some back and forth to whether the calendar should be open or not. And the sales team was basically at the beginning overflowed with requests and not relevant leads. So per request from the sales team, we decided to close it. And after, during a month, we saw that we only got 8 meetings, which is not enough and not what we were expecting. So we opened again the calendar and it jumped back to 200 meeting booked. So we're like, okay, it is more relevant for us to have more meetings, but how can we help the sales team filter in and exclude leads that are not relevant? So we decided to add an entry that is project description with a limitation in characters. So they would have to be very straightforward with their demand. And this was a win because it helped the sales team. We got feedback from them that it was helping them really select and before jumping into a call, identify better the needs. So this was a great example of how we collaborated with the other stakeholders and how we were able to better the funnel, the sales funnel. And the last example that is also a low intent landing page, it's the Content Hub. It's fresh out of the oven. We launched it in September now, and the target audience is for B2B marketers. So guys, this is for you. Basically, here we created a landing page to provide, to showcase marketers all the resources that we can offer and how they can integrate freelancers into their marketing operations. And what is great about here, I think our focus was how can we build trust through content. We have our annual report on marketing where we extracted data on a marketing world and their needs in top freelancers and how we can help filling the gap. So we have actual real data. And then we have also here that you can check out on the link. We at Fiverr, we use Fiverr Pro. So we're like, okay, let's talk to our marketing leaders and ask them who are their favorite freelancers to work with. So we have, for example, our CMO, Mati, that shared his top 5 freelancers to work with on Fiverr Pro on the landing page. And this is a great example on how you can leverage, first of all, content, creating something unique to build trust with your users. So we're promoting it through influencers partnerships and also a post-event email. So make sure to check it out once you'll receive it. So let's wrap it up with a list of do's and don'ts. So let's start with the do's. First, align content with user intent. This is super important. It's, the starting point of your campaign, whether it's high intent and very ready to purchase or lower intent and still seeking information. Do A/B tests regularly. We always optimizing. And even if you don't have enough traffic to test, learn and create new iteration. Do prioritize a clear and compelling header. It's very important to have something that is, conveying your value proposition. Work on your visual hierarchy and ensure that you have something that is professionally built. And of course, optimize for mobile. Because again, this is a discovery channel, so you want to make the best first impression. On the don't overload with information. This is something that we learn. We don't want the users to feel overwhelmed, and the first seconds really matter. Don't neglect page load speed. I didn't touch all the technical part of the landing page creation, but it's also super important. And a page that is not loading quickly enough is going to affect your bounce rate. Don't forget to use white space effectively. So of course, you don't want it to be too overwhelming, but on the other side, you don't want also it to feel empty. Don't rely only on one form of engagement. You have several intents. So of course, you have the main one that you want to push for on your top full, but then, think about, education, learning more. And last but not least, don't forget to follow up. I've talked about landing page. I've talked about the step before, but the step after is as important. So make sure, that you have a good onboarding, that you have a thank you email, that you have a sales funnel that is built. And that's it for me.
Really packed a lot of info there. And sorry for the lack of links. We'll make sure you guys get the links to them later. Tass and Will, what would you add here for your do's and don'ts for landing pages?
I could just, something that really resonated with me that you brought up, Gabrielle, was connecting the context of where the user came from to the first message they're seeing on the site. Like as a copywriter, that's something that's always my first question is like, how did people get here? What did they see before? And I think that's something that often gets lost in the chain of a landing page being created because there's usually multiple people, working on it, and they're sometimes in silos. So that's just something I always try to remind people to like really dial this in, the experience of what they clicked on, where they came from, and the first thing they're seeing, and how aligned are those messages.
And then people are probably sick of me saying this because I talk about it so much, but I also had it in our promo video, which is web accessibility guidelines. Just so you know, they're not guidelines, they're rules because I got fined for that. And so it was something simple like having black text on a red background. I didn't think it was a big deal, obviously, at the time. I'm like, #marketing, ADA doesn't care. So if you're always confused or overwhelmed with design choices, always go for the simplest one because the point of the page is to enable people to consume it. And, they can't consume it if it's jarring to look at. So don't over design. Just make sure that it's minimalistic and you're getting the information across.
That's a good point. I think we all want to avoid getting fined here. We had a couple of questions just before we get into the roast. I think Sarah had one about your first slide, Gabi, about like high intent versus low intent. She said, would ABM with demand based, for example, be a combo of those because it serves ads to people based on their high intent, but we also show display ads? What do you guys think about that?
I think it really depends on the campaign. I would assume that it's towards lower intent, but it really depends on the context.
Okay, I'm going to go on like just the tiniest rant, which is
This is what they're here for.
Can I roast ABM platform? Okay. ABM platforms, I've used many. And what is high intent? I guess that's like the biggest question because the same account, varying stages, the larger the account, varying stages, it's hard to be like, this account has high intent. So I don't know what that is, but like, I don't know if like intent can necessarily be matched in an ABM campaign. So you kind of have to look at it almost as like relevancy for that specific company. But they're essentially, you have to think about the information that they're collecting, because obviously you're talking about it from a B2B context, which I have. Gabi was talking about e-commerce stuff. Like, I don't know anything about e-commerce. Don't ask me. But I can talk about B2B landing pages, which is like they're collecting a specific set of information. And your job is to provide that information at varying stages, right? They're going to get there whenever they're going to get there. And I think worrying too much about what their next move is, like, oh my gosh, okay, they visited this page. What's the page they're going to do next? Like, there's a set of activities that they're going to go through. So they want to understand the product, how it helps their specific company. They want to understand pricing. They want to understand what the sales process is like. So you just create these pages that kind of gather all that information up for them, and then you can make it ABM friendly by like ensuring that there's stuff that's relevant to them. But like, I think it's hard when it's like, well, ABM, it could be top of funnel, it could be bottom, but I'm like, they would much rather have a page that isn't necessarily like, welcome, Wells Fargo. Thank you for visiting our page. Rather than that, it's like, and also marketers like don't have time to create a landing page for like every single company there is on the face of the earth that's on their like ABM list, which happens to be 200 companies or whatever. So my suggestion is to create like 5 or 6 core landing pages that you can send any varying number of companies to. They choose the intent. You don't have to worry about it because you have information to supply that matches that intent. I think intent varies by company as well. And the larger the company, the worse it is. So instead of trying to create pages for each part of that company specific journey, just create the pages for the journey. And no matter who the companies are, they can go and visit and gather that information in order to make the business case to consider you.
I like that. Create for the journey, not the company going on the journey. One more question, and then I promise we're going to get into the roast. So Anna had a question. Dynamic content campaign landing pages. Are they worth it? Using tags for personalization. What do you guys think?
We do use dynamic content, but again, it's because of it's our business. We offer so many services and we have freelancers, and every freelancer have a different skill set. So we do use, content, like dynamic content showcasing our supply, the freelancers, also the skill set. So it depends. I think it depends, first of all, of the scale and how much you're targeting. There's some things to take into account for our businesses. It matches because we have so many things to take into account, so many targeting, so many services that we had to implement dynamic content. It depends on your business and how big the need is.
All right, should we roast some pages? What do you guys think?
Let's roast some pages.
I'm very excited about this. So we pulled up a couple of pages. I'm going to share my screen. So first up, this was submitted by Eden Reed. Company is VC3, and they sell managed IT services to municipal and business leaders. This is the landing page that we have. Again, we don't have the intent. We don't have the keywords or search pages or anything like that. So yeah, I'll just do like a quick scan. You guys make some quick notes, and then we'll go back up for the roast.
The text is standing out to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of it. A bunch of different CTAs, initial reactions, guys, and then just tell me to drive where you want me to go. If there's another section, let me know.
Danielle, can you read what the little live chat message says in the bottom right?
It says, I'm here to make it easier for you to find what you're looking for.
I think someone pointed out in the comments, but multiple competing CTAs right off the top stood out to me, especially when like sometimes you can see that someone has a good reason for doing a secondary CTA, but the why VC3, when I see that, I'm kind of like, isn't that what the page is going to tell me? Like you brought them here. Why do you want them to go to another page? And then the live chat message, like, do you need help finding anything, is almost like a signal of it's going to be really hard for you to find what you're looking for on this page. So there's just like a lot of distractions I'm feeling right away.
Yeah. So the first thing is, I don't know what the source is, right? So it could be something else. I will say if this is coming from like a specific campaign, like a paid campaign or even an email campaign, it would be better not to take them to the main website. And I will beat this drum until the day I die because I'm dramatic. But I will not die for landing pages, but you know what I mean. So I think the biggest thing is, and the reason why I always suggest create another page, and everyone's going to be like, yeah, okay, Chas, with what resources? We'll get to that. But like, you want to create a specific page because the problem is the data becomes muddled, right? Everyone and their brother can access this page on the internet. So if someone's coming here, and it could be like some internal stakeholder. It could be a customer, right? Someone who's already a customer. It could be a prospective client. Even if you have a ton of traffic here coming from the campaign, coming from organic, coming from direct, the problem is that you're going to make decisions based on the wrong information because your data is going to be kind of skewed. So that's the first thing is if you want to truly test how a landing page is performing, just make it an isolated experience and don't give them too many distractions or exit points. To Will's point about the chat, I used to use Drift at my last couple of companies. And what we would do is either put a Drift, a specific playbook on these like high intent pages that was very specific and relevant to the content on there. We would also either like just exclude the script from these pages if we didn't want it to be a distraction or that specific content. And we would only allow it to trigger after they were on the page for a certain amount of time, or perhaps hit a certain amount of scroll depth on the page as well. So that's something to consider because what happens is I'm in the middle of reading your headline and this pop-up happens on the side. And we are in the like Dory generation or whatever, where it's like, oh, what's that? Where are my parents? Like, everyone's just so distracted that you just don't want to like do that. So I have a lot more tips, but that's where I'm going to start.
One quick piece of context I will add from the submission. So they said this is a key vertical of focus and primary service offered with Google and display ads driving to this page.
I think for me, on the top fold, I mean, overall, like the chat said, it's contentful. There's a lot of content. When I'm looking at it, I feel like the header, it's an addition of words, but it's not actually conveying the value of the service. And when I'm looking at the subheading, feel like it explained much better what I landed on. So I would have something much simpler as a header and switch it. Also, it's on 4 lines. The header, I would always limit it to 3 lines because it's taking too much space. So it's even a bit overwhelming, like this addition of word. It is high intent from what I understand, like they're saying that it's high demand. So I would simplify the landing by reducing the header to 3 lines and having something that is much more straightforward and focusing on one of the service. If it's CMMC compliance, just focusing on this and not adding all the other services. You can explain it later on your page, but it doesn't have to be like everything doesn't have to be on the main header.
Here's what we'll do. Let's do one quick thing that you would change about this to help it be better, and then rate on a scale of 1 to 10. And I want you guys to do it in the chat. Reminder, 10 is gold standard. We love it. Amazing. Don't change it. 1 is please take this off the internet right now. And yeah, let's go. All right, Will, you first.
I think there was like a 3-step process section, and I saw a lot of comments about that in the chat. It stood out to me too. They're trying to show how they make this like getting certified for compliance with the DoD so you can keep getting contracts, like how they make the process simple, but instead they're making it seem like working with them is going to be hell because like there's just so much here. And so I think instead they should focus the feeling of problem on the actual compliance and how difficult it is, but show like how you simplify it and make it easier. And I feel like it's doing the opposite right now. So that would be one of the first key things I'd work on. Scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say like 3.5.
All right, 3.5. Tass, you next.
I was gonna say 3, and I'll tell you why. 1, I don't consider this a landing page, so like that's number 1. Number 2, yes, there is a lot of content on the page, which isn't always the worst problem to have because there are some companies who struggle to even have a little bit of content. So I'll give you a little bit of that. So your biggest issue is going to be like killing your darlings, right? You want to say so much because you think that everything's important. This is going to be a prioritization exercise for you more than a like CRO type exercise. You're going to have to like pare this down quite significantly because if it's someone who's overwhelmed with this problem, you're overwhelming them a little bit more. Now, the other thing is, which I'll give you brownie points for, is that I didn't have to travel to many other pages to understand what you were offering and what you were giving them. So that's the part that's going to give me a 3, where I understand it's a service-based company. you're going to do a gap analysis, and you're going to help me pass this audit and get more contracts, right? So I'll give you some points there. I don't want it to be like it's 4 flame emojis, not 5. But, so just making sure like, okay, you have some of the right components. There are some missing, like, okay, if this is high demand and you do have high demand, there's no like social proof on the page anywhere that says that you've helped someone do it in XYZ time. Your simple steps can be much smaller for sure. But I think some of those components are missing. And so I think that that's kind of where you need to focus, is just cutting a lot of that copy down. And landing page, I say no nav or anchored nav. So a nav, if you have a lot of information to give, have it to where they can jump down to varying spots on the page. It will also give you heat map data on what they care about the most. And that is actually how I discovered that FAQ blocks were the most interacted with blocks on the page, is because we launched FAQs on a page and it got like 15% of the clicks, which was insane. I'd never seen that. So that's always something to do. Even if you're reiterating some of the stuff earlier in the page, they don't want to dig. They think they're going to get more direct information about your copy and about what you do in your FAQs.
All right, Gabi, over to you.
I think I would give it a 4. I think that the content is there. I'm going to repeat what is said, but I think we need to simplify it, to reduce, to organize it. And I think I would focus me on the top fold and reorganize it, having a header that is much more straightforward, remove the secondary CTA, because I think that if we want to promote the company, it can be also a section that is below that explain, in a few sentences why they're the good fit, but it doesn't have to be there.
VC3 has been roasted, and now we will move on to the next one. All right, next up, we have Mira. I'm going to pop this link in the chat so you guys can follow along as well. Let's see. This was submitted by Hannah Schultz. They sell to utility companies, and this is a new landing page design. They're sending traffic from paid LinkedIn and Google ads. They are targeting US utilities to drive from awareness and retargeting ads here. All right. Initial takes. Gabi, what do you think?
So we're targeting utilities. I think that I struggle to understand the target audience to get identified. Maybe it's because I don't know the topic enough, but there is something about here, like the header and the subheader that is, the header is very short, supposed to be, I think, inspirational. So not concrete, and then there's a lot of content that I need to read. I think I have some confusion about the target audience, but overall, I'm seeing the form, and this is simple. I'm seeing, that's it. I'm seeing the companies, the trusted companies, and I'm seeing education and a clear CTA. Overall, it's looking professional. There is a trust element and a education on the top part. Maybe it's because I don't know the topic enough. I think there is something about the targeting and how I can identify the audience.
Will, what about you?
This page, it was kind of a struggle to quickly see what the thing is, which I believe it's some sort of predictive modeling software for global utilities. That's just kind of like buried within that large paragraph immediately under the headline. And I also just think having this very large form right in the hero section, kind of taking up that prime real estate, especially because when you were scrolling through, I kind of felt like some of the product screenshots and stuff they had are things that might be interesting to their ICP, given that it's like, you can see interesting little data about the utility poles and stuff like that. So maybe that's something that would be engaging to someone who works in the field and be like, oh, like I would love to be able to see, this kind of information. So I think having something like that up above the fold, and maybe having a button that goes to the form instead of like slapping those really long fields up there would be a better way to go above the fold, and kind of a high impact test to run on the page.
Over to you, Task, for flame emoji.
I'm laughing because, in the comments is hilarious. Zach's like, me roasting this page when my landing page is on life support. So good. Um,
Also,
true.
can I say shout out to Adam Bloom for recognizing fewer versus less and getting that right? Just the grammar pedant in me wanted to point that out. Sorry, Tess.
Okay. No. It's all good. You know what's so interesting to me is that there's literally software for everything. I'm like reading this page. I'm like, what? Okay. It took me a little reading. I do this thing called a 3-page test, which is how many pages does it take me on average to figure out what a company does? And the average is 3. So if you're anywhere under 3, congratulations. It took me 2 in this case. I will say, I don't know. You said retargeting and awareness, Danielle, the campaign?
Yeah. Here's what they said. A new landing page with new design, sending traffic from paid LinkedIn and Google ads. Campaign is running to target US utilities and driving from awareness and retargeting ads.
Okay, weird, because awareness and retargeting should be like almost 2 different components. Like what you would send someone from a retargeting campaign versus what you would send them from like a first touch point awareness campaign are different things. Someone who's in an awareness stage is not going to come here and then fill out this form based on just this information in the hero when they're like, oh, I don't even know where I am. That's like, those guys on Tinder who are like, hey, how are you? Hey, sweetie, you want to get married? And you're like, what? And it's like, yeah, you're there for the same goal. Like eventually you'd like to meet someone and get married. I mean, I did. I met my husband on Tinder. We got married 10 years ago, or we met 10 years ago. And so, but if he'd straight up said that, I would be like, this is a creep, ghost, block, report, right? So it's the same concept here where it's like, if it's your first touch point, like you can ask them for their most precious leverage in this situation, which is their information. So unlike much other landing page people, will tell you to always put the form in the bottom, unless it is a super, super high intent page where they're saying, I literally want a demo of this product. I would put that down below. And next to that one, I would lay out the expectations. Someone did call that out. What am I going to get if I fill out this form? Yeah, what's going to happen? And then you don't have to give them the whole sales process, but you can say, 1 to 2 steps ahead, like someone will contact you within 24 hours. We'll have a discovery call, and then we'll give you a custom demo, because I worked at one SaaS company and they were pissed because they thought they were getting a demo from the first call. And they felt like people were wasting their time. So if you set the expectations, it also eliminates some of that friction and objection. Yeah, it's not super clear who you are. It might be like you don't talk about the product until the 3rd line on the subhead. And I don't know if people are actually going to read a paragraph that's literally sitting in like a square box like that. So you got to make it a little more succinct. And then it says global utilities trust Niara to keep their network safe from fires, floods, and more. That actually says a lot more. And then I would say global utility companies, because I was like, global utilities, it sounds like someone saying like enterprises trust. So when I first read it, I was like, wait, are these utility companies or they're utilities? So just something like that. And then there's a lot of like these, like the no nav, you're like, great, I'm not going to do a nav because I don't want to distract them, but I'm just going to put 100 links on the page instead. And so I think that's part where like you have the logos, but I don't see anything else. At least I didn't when I scrolled down. Do you see anything, Danielle, on like quotes from any of these? No, they link to case studies. So I'll give you a hot tip, which I do for my clients. I go through all their case studies, I pull out the quotes, and I use the quotes, because volume always has a larger impact than density. So if you have one case study, you're trying to choose between like having one deep case study on a page or having multiple quotes, do the multiple quotes. People skim before they invest. They need to see like from someone else's mouth what you help them with and that you helped more than one person. And in this case, it looks like 0 people outside of taking them.
Someone just said they're editing live.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh, snap. Yes. We need this kind of speed. We need this kind of speed in SaaS. This is great.
This is awesome. I love this.
So excited.
On that note about testimonials, I was clicking around on the site just now a little bit, and like Mira has great quotes that they could be featuring. There was one that I saw that said, we eliminated 300 hours of inspection time. Like this seems like a very high impact product that's getting great results. So don't hide them beneath case studies. Pull some of those like interesting nuggets out and sprinkle them throughout the page.
Love that. Such a good call out. Totally agree. That needs to be there. Like, I feel like the elements are somewhat there. Like, if you scroll down, Danielle, like this block, I got excited initially because I'm like, wow, okay, we're going to talk about the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, which I guess we kind of are, but then they're like linking to these other places. And then I get disappointed because I'm like, I don't really want to go somewhere else and read about this. Like, just talk to me about how you're solving this. So I wonder if the question format is great. Can you also, kind of give more context to the problem? So then in their minds, they're going, check, 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 that's me. And then going into this. I have a wide monitor and that graphic sits on like, is it the same for you, Will? You're nodding.
It's huge. It's
huge. It's like, I'm like looking over here and then I'm going over here. And then my memory is so poor post children that I'm like, I've forgotten what I read over here by the time I go over here. Right? Like that. One quick thing, which you won't be able to fix live, but I'm going to tell you is I really doubt that this website, the background imagery and text on it, I bet you 25% of the internet can't read that because of the contrast, the number of images, and then the responsiveness, the pieces even move. So even if they could read it in one specific portion, they're not on another specific portion. So you're going to, I think like the design thing, it's nice in terms of like, oh, okay, yeah, this is very relevant to us. But putting any kind of text on imagery, guys, like you got to be so careful about that, especially if it's a busy image on the background. I use Accessibility, but you can literally look up, Allison, you can look up any web accessibility checker. I just like Accessibility because they list. They do like a list format and in categories of like web accessibility checker. So run through that. Not everything is important, but go against the readability, color contrast. Those are the things you'll actually like, they pick up on first to get fined for.
Danielle, can you scroll down to that second section, the question one, real quick? Because I liked this too, but one quick thing, and then we can move on. Or Gabrielle, if you have thoughts to add as well. But there's these pages have this habit of using what I call placeholder headlines, where there will be a headline, and you could kind of imagine it on almost in any industry, and like your answer any question is just so broad and generic. It's a good opportunity to rephrase this, but act as if you're talking directly to the people at utility companies. So it's not like I typed out, rather than that, you could say like, assess any risk, no field visit required. And then they see what those risks are that they can assess. But I really liked these actual examples in here. So I do think this is a nice section just with some massaging. It could be a lot better.
All right, cool. We got to keep it moving. So we're going to wrap up. One thing you would change to help them. I think we've been through a couple of good suggestions, but if you had to sum it up and then rapid fire, let us rate on a scale of 1 to 10. All right, Gabi, you go first.
I'm always focused on the top fold because I think most of the magic in general happens there. So I see that we already reduced the subheading. I would make sure that, we're explaining better the product. Again, I think the header can be much more simple and straightforward. And I agree with what Will and Taz said about the form, that it doesn't have to be there and it's a waste of space. So just having a direct CTA. The page does look professional. I do think there's nice section, so I would give it a 7.
Nice. I love it. All right, people in the chat, give us your intake. We want to know what you think. All right, Will, let's get your rating.
I'll put it at a 6. I think it's probably like a 5.5, but extra half credit for literally making changes in real time. That's amazing. That has to be a roast first, I would imagine. But yeah, just reiterating the things. Focus on above the fold, and also like don't be afraid to flex a little bit, because it sounds like y'all are getting great results for customers, and make that impact known. Fewer outages feels like you're underselling yourselves.
Okay, I'm gonna go on 5, but I was gonna do 6 because of the live changes. That was so baller. You know how long I worked in-house at companies for 14 years, and I still remember this GR ticket where we started this project and then we launched the campaign literally a year later. It was like on the anniversary of the creation of that ticket. So just because of that, you get a whole point, because that was like so good. So good. Yeah. I'll remember this moment forever, or at least for the next hour.
I think we all need to give a round of applause for Hannah.
Yeah, that was so
taking this advice, making live changes. Hannah, you are awesome. You have how many people are here right now? We've got about 350 marketers live.
I commend you for like it being a landing page. I think that you could use this if you have the autonomy to make those decisions very quickly. Use this page as like your testing ground to be extremely clear about what you do and what you're offering, especially if it's a first touch point landing page. You want someone to come here and understand immediately what it is you do. So if you want to call out what your product is, do some little research to see, because sometimes what we call it internally does not match what people are actually searching for and coming to you with. Move that form down, be clear about the problems that you're solving, showcase the product. You have blocks on there that don't have that background imagery. I would make this whole page just like your brand colors, but not that background imagery, because I think that you'll actually distract and lose some people on there. And then definitely brevity and specificity are going to be your friends on any landing page, where you can take some of those bullet points down quite significantly in the solutions area. And then that's social proof, what they can expect after. So yeah, there's like, you're like, 50% there. That's how I look at it. So you got 50% to go with some of those tweaks, but it could be overall like simplified, and take off all these extra links. You don't need that.
All right, we're going to speed do one more. All right, which one do we like here? We got 3 to choose from. Give me a fast choice here. All right, I'm going to give some more context here. This is what I got in the submission. Got B2B capital equipment sales, advanced technology space. Think metal 3D printing. Long sales cycle, 1 to 2 years. Large buying committee. After listening to your podcast with Tass, I reworked the landing page. No form at the top, very informational, educational. This is being used for an ABM campaign targeting mid to low funnel accounts in the medical industry through display ads, demand base. I will judge success by time on page, links to other pages, and our website, and progression of open opportunities with these accounts.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
And her whole team is watching. So maybe dial it down to like 3 honest flame emojis.
Well, listen, she followed my suggestions, so it's more like 5 heart emojis. How about that?
All right, I'm going to do a quick scan of the page, and then we'll go up for quick reactions, one thing you would change, and rating all at once, because we got a couple of minutes. We got to squeeze this in because we got to announce those Fiverr Pro credits at the end of this session as well. So
also, as you're scrolling, just shout out to Sarah for being willing to do this with the whole team watching. I would be terrified. So that's amazing.
Gabi, I want your take. What do you think? What's something you would advise them to do? And then let's rate on a scale of 1 to 10.
First of all, I understand that the conversion window is very long, so there's not a direct conversion goal from there, but still, I struggled with the CTA that is on the bottom. Because first of all, it's violet on violet. And for me, it wasn't clear that this was the primary CTA. So as a structure, I would make sure that still, you have a real placeholder. I think overall, design-wise, it's very dark and it's violet on violet. So I feel like some of the content is getting lost. In terms of structure, it's looking good, but I think it's missing exit point to overpower because we're trying to drive more links and having people going over on the website. And I feel like it went, this is the first one that we're seeing. We don't have a lot of engagement, place for engagement on the top of the page. So I would have some work toward having something that is more engaging. It does look good, but it's very dark. Rating it already.
Yeah, gotta go. Put the ones in the comments. What would you guys rate this?
I would give it a 6.
I like it. All right. What do you guys think in the chat? And then let's go Will, and then we'll wrap up with Tass.
Off the cuff, I'm going to give it a 4. I strong agree, Gabrielle, on the colors, the purple on the very dark, it's almost like black background, just very hard to read. I also just think this is not a scanning friendly page, just in terms of if you look at the headlines, many of them are just can you scroll to the second section, Danielle, right?
Yeah.
Below the fold.
This one?
Need a solution that delivers maximum efficiency and lower costs. It's just the most generic benefits that you could apply to any industry out there. And this is a very specific device that serves a very specific set of people. This makes medical implants, and it looks like it does a great job from the photos down below, renderings or whatever they were. And so I almost just think like you do a lot of assuming a lot of times when people get to a page, like, oh, they're on the page. They know who we are by now. They know what this is about. Like they really don't a lot of the time. Like, so any word, like industry related words that you can get into the headlines will go a long way. And then it also takes a long time to figure out on the page, like what the page is talking about. Like there were references above to a machine, but it wasn't talking about what the machine was. And then you finally get to what the machine is, like the big reveal. And so I was kind of caught between like, is this like a problem aware landing page where people have no concept of the thing and you're just focusing on the pain points and then introducing the machine as the hero? If so, like you can do that, but I think you need to lean into more of what those actual problems are beyond just the generic throughput, efficiency, stuff like that. So I know we're coming up on time. I will shut up now and let Tass go.
All right, Tass, rapid fire.
Okay, rapid fire. But first, I have a lot of thoughts. Sarah, just like message me on LinkedIn after and I'll do a free audit for you. Okay. Like a full audit. Anyway, so my first thing is I did run it through the accessibility scan and you are not compliant in terms of the font size and the color contrast, which they kind of alluded to, but just like officially it does not meet those requirements. So something to just consider. Definitely two colors that are the same on top of each other aren't going to pass that. So just something to consider there. I do agree on the efficiency and lower cost thing. I actually wrote a post like a couple of days ago and it was kind of mean, but I just said, if every SaaS platform company, well, I said SaaS, but obviously I don't know if you're SaaS or not, which was another question. I was like, wait, it's a machine or is it a platform? Is it a solution? Like, I don't know what's going on. But I said, if every one of them delivered on their promise, I'd be the fastest and richest person on earth. And so I just don't think that that's your value prop that you need to lead with or your benefit. I know eventually it does, but that's not what it is. I think once you come up to the actual product that's down here, that's when it starts to become a little clearer about what you do. In fact, Danielle, if you can scroll down to the part that says fine feature detail and superior finish, that was the point where it clicked for me. I was like, oh, I kind of get what this does, right? And it's halfway down the page. Yeah. Only 30% of people make it to the bottom of the page on the average B2B landing page, right? Other than that, too, this still has the full navigation, which can then just like, if they can't understand what you're doing on this page, they are 100% going to other pages. And most people would misconstrue that as, oh, well, I'm giving them access to other pages. Well, they wouldn't need to access as many if they didn't know. The depth over breadth thing or breadth over depth thing I thought about, you have the quotes down below. I would swap these. I would just move that up and leave these here. And then, yeah, some stuff about yourself. There's some kind of proposal happening over here. And then, you know, are you ready to break free? What am I breaking free from? What are the steps? What's the process? That's my high level thoughts. I would probably give this like a 4 or a 5, probably a 4 because I'm still unclear on what you did. I went to your main website to kind of look and I'm like, okay, actually, if we hover over your homepage, the meta tag says metal 3D printers. That like tells me more than this entire landing page told me. So if that's accurate, then there you go. But seriously, send me a message. I'm happy to do a free audit for you like I did for the Exit 5 community some time ago. And I'll send you a Loom with some other tips.
That was amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining to roast. That was awesome. It's the only session that went a little over too, which I think just speaks to how awesome you guys are. Thank you, Tass, Will, and Gabi for that awesome session. And please go follow them on LinkedIn.